You build a lab inside your mind that no one else can infiltrate. Right? You never let someone else come and take space in your head.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years. Our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
We'll be done with this and do goals in a second. But the overall piece here I want you to look at, number one, build a mental lab. Never give weakness a voice. Never give weakness a voice. What does that mean, you think? I never give weakness a voice. What do you think that means? I make a decision, I won't talk bad about myself in negative anyway. Those are things like, I can't do that. I'm not good at that. Anything that's I can't or I'm not, you eliminate that from your vocabulary the rest of this year. And be purposeful about it. Make a decision today, like, I make sure no matter what, that I never give weakness a voice. Anybody listen to the video I sent this morning? He talked about what?
Don't have enough time.
But what do you talk about? This relates to this. The bitch voice. Right? Everybody has that bitch voice that comes in there, and you don't allow yourself to ever give weakness a voice. And so as it comes in your subconscious, what do? You got to kill it. You got to shut it down, which is super important to make sure that we do overall in that scenario. Number two, this is the second part about this. The second piece of that is I silence all negative thoughts. And something he talks about a lot, which is powerful, is this: a normal person, I think I talked about this a while back, but the normal person has 70,000 thoughts a day. Which is a lot, right? Some more, some less. Those are small things that we do all the time. Like, I don't want to get up, my alarm clock just went off, right? Do I go to the gym? Do I not go to the gym? Oh shit, I don't like this workout. Whatever it is. These happen all day, every day in terms of what we do. Now the problem with that is, for most people, guess what? Of the 70,000, 60,000 of those are pretty much the same ones every single day. And so if I had 70,000 thoughts today, most people, 60,000 of those thoughts are the same ones I have tomorrow, plus a few more that make or break based on what I'm facing. And so I want to make sure I'm able to go in and make sure I can make changes here. That I can do what? I want to shift all these here. And I want to eliminate what? The negative ones. Zapping overnight? Nope. It takes time to do that. And it takes a really decision over a period of time. You know what? I'm going to get rid of these negative thoughts. Zig Ziglar used to call it stinking thinking. Right? I hear it all the time, joking him off. He's like, you can tell this person that stinking thinking on the telephone. Because they have all this victim mentality and things that they have. And it just comes down to how people are raised and how people are brought up and how they think. And it comes down to victim mentality. And so here I want you to say, look, no matter what, I want to silence negative thoughts. Doesn't mean you're not going to have them, but what happens is I do what? I fight against it. And one talks about a lot is death by 1,000 paper cuts. It talks about most people don't ever have anything happen with just one thing. It's usually death by 1,000 cuts. What does that mean, you think?
Back.
You have small thoughts and small thoughts and small thoughts happen in relationships. Right? One thing happens, never one this big thing. They don't just decide, hey, I'm going to cheat one day. Or I'm going to do this thing. What happens? You have a small issue, a small issue, a small issue, a small issue, a small thought. And all of a sudden, after enough small thoughts, a little bit of resentment kicks in. And the resentment gets echoed more by more what? Small thoughts and small thoughts and small thoughts and small thoughts. And all of a sudden, those 1,000 cuts lead up to this big major thing. And all of a sudden, somebody wants a divorce or wants something else. Or then they make a decision to talk to somebody else they shouldn't talk to and respond to a message they shouldn't respond to. And all of a sudden, you're down the road. And these small 1,000 cuts is what led you to the big problem that you had. And so all that can be course corrected early on if I'm very purposeful about my thought process. And so if I want to make a decision to control my mental lab, I want to become a master at this, okay? Super, super important for me to make sure I'm doing in that scenario. Third, I want to dissolve limiting beliefs. It's super important. Dissolve limiting beliefs. What do you think that means?
Say dissolve limiting beliefs?
Limiting. Limiting beliefs.
Dissolve all the thoughts if you can.
Yeah.
To a certain point.
It's a really cool thing that I was watching that he did in this conference. There's a course I paid for. But he had this girl, she's 19 years old, she's in the car business, pulls her up, calls her up on stage, and say, hey, look, in the car business here, what do you think you can make here in the car business? And she said, I don't know. He said, give me a number. If you could be the top 1%, what would you make car business? You know what she said? What do you guys think? Give me a number. She said 100,000. You know what he said? He said that's all you're ever going to make in the car business. Why is that? That's where she thinks the ceiling's at. Right? And that's her ceiling. And so it's a great example of limiting belief. He talked about when Andy Elliott got in car business, he asked his sales manager, what do you think you can make as he is top producer in sales? And guess what? The manager at the dealership said $125,000. At 20 years old, guess how much Andy Elliott made? $125,000 on the dot. That manager got fired. Later on that year, a new manager came in. He was talking to the manager, and the manager said, hey, look, Andy Elliott, you can make $250,000 in the car business. You know what Andy said? No. He said, you can't. He said, you can't make that because my other manager said 125 is the max. It's the max you do it. I just worked my ass off this past year. I busted my ass. I hit that. And that's the max you can make at this dealership. And he said, well, before I got into management, I made $250 at my last dealership. I have a pay stub I can show you from the end of the year if you want to. And he said, yeah. He showed him the pay stub. The pay stub was $250 for the year. You know, as an employee, it grosses over the year, right? It said $250 at the end. All of a sudden, next year, what do you think Andy made? $250,000. Why? The limiting belief was gone. He saw somebody actually do it. Right? Here we have people making $300,000 plus. Right? On the sales side, the reality is like here, you got to make sure that you understand what are your own limiting beliefs in that. Now, the problem with that is we hold ourselves back by our stories. The stories about what? We tell ourselves like what? Too busy, can't do it. Right? In that scenario. I'm trying to think how to. Why does something bad have to happen for you to sell 4 houses in a month? That's the crazy part for anybody. Everybody here that may have kids, trying to use this person that has a kid. I relate to this, but here's the thing. Always got to think, why does something bad have to happen for us to actually make a decision to do this? Because you know you could do 4 in a month, right? But since we don't do it, why? We tell ourselves stories about we're too busy, we got this going on, and all of a sudden we let ourselves off the hook, which ultimately is a what? Limiting belief. But the problem is, as humans, we tend to make sure that we wait too long until something bad happens for us to actually make a change in ourselves. And that was a great thing to look at, because if I would ask you, hey, look, why don't you sell 4 houses? What would you tell me?
Daddy daycare, I spend full time with kid, I don't have daycare.
I got a son, I got things going on, right? I got all this going on. And everybody else in here would have their own excuse too. But we all know if it came down to it, you sell 4 houses all day, you probably sell 6. No problem. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, how do we get caught up in this? And why do we wait so long for something bad to happen before we actually make the decision we need to do what we need to do? The craziest part is we lie to ourselves. And so I want you to just have some introspection there, right? And just look inside and say, hey, what am I telling myself? Let myself off the hook. That's my limiting belief here. And this is not just a 100K one. This is a small stuff like how many houses a month can I actually sell based on what I have going on. Because we all know that if someone kidnapped your kid and said they're killing him in a month, you'd hit the number. Because at that point, it's life and death. We just make sure I figure out, hey, look, how do I become that savage who does that regardless of what it is and can double down? Does that make sense? Super important piece there. Is that helpful a little bit? I think it's a great wake-up call for a lot of us to make sure we're looking at, hey, look, where I let myself off the hook? How do I make sure I eliminate that limiting belief? And let's do that per quarter. I'm telling you, because it's super powerful.